G'day, I'm Sharon, welcome to my channel. Let's get this Halloween bag finished. Let's see how much I managed to get into my pumpkin bag. Quite a bit, really. It's also possible to actually do this up with things in it, and one of the reasons I mention that is because if you've made this for a child, and maybe it's not full of edibles but rather Lego or other toys, it is possible to put everything on it and do up the zips when you're ready to go home. And the zips create these gussets. So this piece here will become a little gusset in between. But that's a pretty big volume bag. I quite enjoyed the fact that on the outside of this I used different sorts of oranges and greens and the sorts of colours you would see in pumpkins, and I used different colours of tape to go over my joins on my Quilt As You Go. You may notice that in some areas when I was doing my Quilt As You Go, I actually stopped and then changed to a different colour. That was just random places where I ran out of one particular fabric, so I started using another one. As long as those joins are underneath, it works fine. So let's have a look at how I turned the circle into the bag. The first thing to remember is that the zips are what create the gussets. There are 4 zips around the bag, and each one comes from a corner of the central square. The shape that the side of the bag is going to be is determined by what shape I put the zip in. There are 4 12-inch zips, and they are open-ended zips. I just got things in sort of pumpkin-y, natural kinds of colours, which is what I did with the fabrics as well. When the zips get attached, you need to make sure that the end where the metal stopper is not going to actually get in the way of where you're putting your binding. I'm not actually worried about the shape of these being a little bit different with each zip, because pumpkins don't actually come out completely symmetrical. If you wanted to spend more time on that, you certainly can. Of the 4 zips, which means 8 zip halves, 5 of them ended up with little pleats in the tape as I was putting them on. That's why I've got this bias fabric over the top of that. It covers it up, makes it look prettier, and stops those folds in the zip tape from being seen. binding around the outside edge of the bag is done exactly the same way that I did the binding in my recent video on binding, except there are no corners. However, it's curved, so it has to be done with bias tape so that the tape will stretch and go around corners or go around curves. So it's still cut at 2 1/4 inches wide. It still went through the tape making machine exactly the same way. I still joined them the same way. The only difference is it was a biased fabric. And because it's biased, it's got stretch in it. And stretch means you can go around curves. To make my handles, I cut fabric about 12 inches long and 4 inches wide. I fold it in half and press it. And then I fold the edges into the center and press them. And I put a 1 inch wide piece of wadding in the handles because I like them to have a little bit of softness to them. Then I just stitch down both edges. The handles are attached this way initially. So I stitched them down about 1 centimetre, half an inch from the end, and went back and forward a couple times, and then I folded it out and I stitched over the top there. So they're very firm, they shouldn't come undone. That's how I do my fairly basic handles on these. I've got some things I need to put back in here now. It's good fun, isn't it? A mat that turns into a bag, and when you get somewhere and you want to play with what's in the bag, you open it out, play with it, and then zip it back up to keep going. I find them a lot of fun. See you next time.